Last time on Podcrash.
Dial up.
The good old days.
Okay. Welcome, Royal. Welcome, Sarah, as she's breastfeeding on the couch across the way.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Is anyone alive out there? Good to see ya.
It's so good to see you. Yeah, fuck you.
So we thought it would be fun today to talk about early internet / early YouTube.
Let's face it, America, I'm a nerd.
It's like I can wire it to run off of a boat. Why would you do that? Because I can.
There was a website called Kids Online.
How many pedophiles were on that website?
Do you remember Yahooligans? It was Yahoo, but specifically for
it was
kids.
for kids, yeah. Did you guys ever go to Neopets? It was like Pokemon.
Okay.
The website's still active.
The first thing I remember is like a teen chat.
Were you an early troll?
Oh yeah, I just go and make people mad.
The original troll.
Yep.
I try to be professional, and this is what it gets me to it. And I don't want to be that person who annoys other people with what they're really into.
You don't want to annoy people with drag queen
Shut
stuff?
up, April. I annoy you with whatever I say, so it doesn't matter what you think. Everything that comes out of my mouth annoys her, so it's okay.
America, you're watching.
Nonplussed.
You're watching the podcast
Breakup
version
of Podcrash.
Shut up and sit down.
If she hears about it,
gonna be
she'll
a lot of-
find
Just
it.
started recording right there.
The burp
See,
aside.
I'm
burp.
Yeah.
I'm already 30. I'm turning into a grandma.
She's wrapping herself in a blanket.
Oh, it's so
We
cold
all
down
just had
here.
lunch, and so we were going all in a bit of a food coma.
It's so cold down here. Why you fuckers have it so cold?
We were joined by
Right.
Sarah's grandma.
You can call me abuela. I don't know Spanish, but I heard that's what the bitches are called.
I'm calling them bitches. Welcome to our episode, and our guests are back. We have Royal and Sarah. Yay!
Hello.
And Sarah's grandmother, Abuela.
Goodbye.
Oh, no.
Oh, there she goes.
Wait until the afterlife? Or?
Oh, no.
Oh, goodbye.
You just jump out the window like... So we thought it would be cool this episode to talk about neighbors, neighborhoods, moving, places we've lived,
Oh, I
roommates.
thought you meant like the movie Neighbors.
The movie, the Australian soap opera. It's also called Neighbors.
Oh.
Yeah, every
I like-
Australian actor's been on it. Like everyone.
And you're like the only one that knows all of those actors too, right?
Well, just the ones we know.
What's wrong with you?
Just sniffing the microphone. Just checking out that stench, you know.
Who's been farting on these mics?
It might not be too dissimilar from the sound we will be hearing later as all of us start to digest this food.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
10-10 dynamite.
Hopefully it's silent, but not deadly. 10-10 dynamite.
We hope the air passes through your butthole quietly and without a lot of stench.
Right?
I still think they need to make poopery underwear.
They have like the period panties. Why can't they have like fart ones?
Whoa.
Yeah.
What? Period panties.
Period panties where the material is like you can
It's a
Frenchly free
Is
bleed
it-
into them.
was it the Mac Weldon Silver?
I'm Mac Weldon.
Is that what it is? Mac Weldon
Yeah.
Silver underwear?
I don't know. I just know what they do. The underwear ads. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
silver. I usually
it's silver. It's
sorry,
antimicrobial.
podcast people. Yeah, antimicrobial. I usually skip over the ads because I don't want to be told to buy a mattress.
That's
Thank you.
right. I forgot. You pay the $4. Oh, because I don't want to hear people talk
No,
about a mattress.
I do when I do like the podcasts on my like iTunes or whatever. You can, as long as it's loaded, you can skip over the ads.
Hey, why wait in line at the post office when you can go to stamps.com?
See, I'll see you never at the post office. They got me mad when they were talking about audible.com, and he's like, I'll see you never at the library. Fuck you, Scott Ackerman.
Claws are coming out.
I mean, I probably wouldn't want to go to the Los Angeles Public Library either, because that seems like that's just asking for trouble.
Just piss in every corner.
But for us in tiny towns, the libraries are very important. So
I will say, I did rip on you a while back, and I was like, "Oh, digital's the way to go. Digital's the way to go." I love going to the library. It is probably
one at a time. We're just
it is probably one of the coolest things ever. In
Converting 'em.
fact, on the floor in my office over there, I've got 4 books
ooh.
that are overdue, just collecting dust on my floor.
Yeah, keeping public property all over my floor, just collecting all kinds of dirt and debris.
Hey,
When I return them, they're going to have bed bugs in them, all that good stuff.
Well, first off, if I've got bed bugs in this house, shoot me now. 'cause
Right? And
gross.
good luck, guys, because now you got them. Ha! It's
We
just invite
got
people.
fleas, ticks, bed bugs. What you want?
I got all kinds. Okay, so yes, so anybody when they say neighbors, neighborhood, like any stories pop to mind, former roommates. Obviously, we've been roommates, me and Sarah, as well as me and Royal,
Kind of.
which we talked about
Royal
on
basically
the
lived
first
with us.
podcast. Yes, the first podcast that you guys did. But other than us as each other's roommates, because unless you have a particularly funny story that comes to mind, I think we were relatively good roommates, right?
Yeah.
No, just
Nothing major ever happened. We didn't end up stop talking to each other, because sometimes you can live with people you get along with and it's okay, and other times it's like it stops your friendship, because it's just like some people are fun to hang out with but not to live with, and sometimes you don't realize that until you've lived with them and you're like, fuck, why did I do this?
No, that's... Well, oddly enough, my only roommate that I've had was you, Anna.
Yeah.
And then Sarah.
Right?
Like, other than that, I lived at home, got that apartment for, 3 months, but I was technically only there for like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went back home, lived with my parents, and then
Right?
bought
Until
my house.
after you were married, according to the church you guys were married at.
Yes.
They couldn't, was it a rule, or was it just like you didn't want to tell them that you guys were living together, or were they like, you're not supposed to before you get married?
It's just, it would have been frowned upon, so we're just like, let's just not even go
Yeah.
down that road. There probably would
Of
have
course we
been
live separately.
more time spent
And-
talking about our relationship and all that. so
Yeah,
we're
because
like,
they made you do that mandatory couples counseling, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which wasn't
So
bad.
what happens
That
when
was
you get
fine.
married at a Catholic church?
That was fine.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Like
it
we don't
was-
live together, and we've never had sex before marriage. You're just like, lying.
Well, and what was nice is it did go deeper than that. Like, how do you plan on raising your kids? And
Yeah, that's
what
pretty
would you do
smart
over
to like
money
have people do that
problems
before
and-
they get married,
Yeah.
as
Well,
opposed
and-
to after.
Because oddly enough, like they give you like a Scantron to like answer questions just to gauge where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go see like an older couple that are like quote unquote mentors, I guess.
Yeah.
But they like break down the questions with you, and they're like, "Oh, we saw that Royal answered it like this, and Sarah, you answered it like this. Like, like why do you think of it that way?" But our answers were all pretty much the same.
Right.
Except for when it comes to religion. That was really funny because he's like, you guys, your answers are like 90% the same, except for everything that has to do with the Catholic Church.
And then that's,
First, let's start off with the big one. You said, "Is there a God?" Sarah said yes. Royal said, "Eh." Let's discuss that, shall we? And Royal's like, "I didn't say I didn't believe, but I gotta see it."
there wasn't an on the Scantron, but you wrote it in.
I didn't want to go for a hard no, because I don't know, but I didn't want to go for a definite yes.
No, that was fine.
Yeah.
Like all of that was good. What was really nice though was, so before we got married and we had to like say that we didn't live together.
Yeah.
It was really nice too because, well, I bought the house next door to you guys.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
we could just she lives
if they
next
showed
door.
up in like a weird sitcom scenario, Sarah could have jumped out the window and ran next door.
Yeah, or if it's before 8 p.m.
Yeah.
the sinning hour,
Right.
then you could just be like, no.
And then they open the door and you're like sitting there praying and you're like, "Oh, I didn't expect you."
She was cooking me dinner.
Yeah. We were just enjoying a nice dinner before she went home.
Before I waltzed her next door.
We were enjoying a wonderful dinner, fully clothed, before I gently took her hand and walked her next door and gave her a nice kiss on the cheek for the end of the evening.
On the hand. Watch yourself.
Let's not get rowdy.
Too close.
Way too close.
So limited roommate experience. We roomed together, me and you, Sarah, and then we had a sweet mate named Rachel. I don't know if we talked about on the episode.
I don't remember.
And I had a roommate before you
Yes,
as well.
we became roommates because your roommate before me was terrible.
I hope you're listening, O-Town.
You think she's still like
Alive? Is that what
I
you're
sound
gonna say?
insensitive when I say it that way, but yes,
You
that's
think
what
this bitch is breathing?
What? You should be like
She
married
became
with like
very
7 children now or
involved
something.
with Western, and I think she became like, what is that when you are the
A mentor
Advisor?
or
Yeah, maybe.
advisor?
Like a
She did
campus
something
advisor?
with it. I don't know.
I mean, it was like a free thing to do. Like anybody
You
could
think
just.
she did it so that the younger people coming in would be her friends?
Oh, those poor children.
Like people who are like graduated and like in college and still hanging out with like their high school friends.
What if she's like super like,
She's, like,
awesome now?
right?
Like, she's
Some
like
people-
a really productive person.
Some people you
Turned
meet,
a new leaf.
you
Yeah.
meet and
Yeah.
they're just like the most annoying people ever, and then you see them years later and everything's lined up and they got their shit together and they like, oh yeah, I was like super annoying when you met me, but like now I'm, they like evenly admit it.
Yeah, I was paying people to give them blowjobs. Like,
Are we
people
talking about the pickle situation?
People
then,
were
or-
chasing me down the hallway with
America.
Bibles trying to throw it at me.
America, that's real.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. I mean, international audience as well. Ecuador. I'm
Yeah.
looking at you. But yeah, that was. I don't know. She was
She was a
something
musical
else.
major.
How
and
long
playing
were you roommates with her?
instruments.
You weren't roommates for
24/7.
very long, were you? It's like less than a month.
Yeah, probably less than a month.
And you're
I
like,
just
I
couldn't
need to
do
get
it.
out of here.
Yeah, she was always playing different instruments and always talking about trying to hook up with guys. It was
We're paying them to hook up.
yeah, basically paying to hook up.
Prostitution.
Yeah, she
Paying
had,
them.
she had some
Reverse
boots.
prostitution.
She had boots. She called her hooking boots.
She paid a dude $50 so that she could give him a blowjob.
What?
Swear.
You'd pull her aside. You'd be like, I'm not a madam or a pimp or anything, but I got to explain to you how this works.
She only paid him $50. I had to pay $100 for mine.
Yeah.
She was like, I got a technique. I'm
What
gonna
a deal.
flatten it out for you and
Oh,
make it
God.
dry as a desert.
Ugh.
It's like, okay, but you're gonna have to give me money if that's what we're doing.
The worst. The absolute worst. But are you talking like just neighbors now? Like our neighbors now? Because you actually know one of our neighbors.
Yes, when I came to, what was it, the first, like Izzy's birthday that you had
Yeah,
here?
her second birthday.
Her second birthday you had after you moved in here, and they came to it, and I was like, that guy looks really familiar, which is crazy because I don't know Kalamazoo people very well. Like, I know a couple from when I used to live here, but not like a lot. And he used to work in Battle Creek and come into the bank that I worked at, and he was always a super nice guy. And you guys get along with him and the family like really well.
Yeah, they're great.
Like to
people.
the point where like one of them, when you guys go out of town, you watch the other one's dogs, you get the other one's mail, like.
Yeah.
Like I trust you
Yeah,
in my
we
home,
watched their
not
dog.
yeah. Like I trust you in my home, not to steal my shit, kind of neighborhood. Which I don't have any neighbors that I know that well. So
Well, you also did just move.
that's true. I didn't know anyone in Albion though that well either.
Well, it is Albion.
Hello.
April, you know your neighbor at least on the one side because he'll be out like mowing his lawn. You at least know his name. Like there's more than I can say about my neighbors.
Oh, yeah, well, my one neighbor, George, because I work with them.
Oh, okay.
Also, so, like, he's never there and whatnot, and I just see him randomly because he's usually calling his cat. It's like, Gertie, where are ya?
Oh, he's got a cat named Gertrude.
Or something like that, yeah.
Is he an older gentleman or does he listen
Yeah,
to the
he's-
show?
No,
He just talks like that. He talks like Wilbur Brimley.
no, he's like an old hippie kind of looking dude. Pretty sure he
Ooh.
smokes pot on the back porch.
He's like, yeah,
Did you ever ask him, can you just share? I mean, honestly.
Hey, George, can I get a head off of that?
I need my cat
You're
to
gonna
come back
whiff
so
it
I
out
can send
here.
her out from my diabetes medication.
Sitting in this rocking chair holding this shotgun.
Because I got diabetes.
But yeah, so I know him really well. My other neighbor, though, he's this old crotchety man, and he got pissed like during the summer because I was apparently mowing his grass. Where I was told, like, when I got the house from my mom and dad, they're like, okay, the property line is here. I'm like, all right, so I'll mow up to that point, a little bit over, whatever. You know, it's an old guy living next
Yeah,
door.
most people don't complain if you mow their lawn.
Who's gonna care if I mow their lawn, mow a little bit of their lawn? But no, he came out once and he was just staring at me as I was mowing, and then finally he came up to me like a week later and he's like, "You see that tree right there? That's the property line. Don't be mowing my grass." And like his daughter or something was also walked up. And she's like, "You gotta be on the property line. You gotta stay on your property." I'm like, "It's grass. Go away."
Is it just you and your sister? Just the two of you?
No, she lives by herself.
No.
live by myself.
Like children-wise, like your parents' kids.
Oh yeah.
Who's the favorite?
You.
She got the house, so I think it kind of speaks for
Well,
itself.
no, because they can't.
April's the favorite because Elizabeth didn't tell anyone she was pregnant till like 8 months. So
Like 2 weeks before she had John.
so that right there, April could pretty much do no wrong now and still be.
The reason why I was asking was because it sounds almost like a backhanded punishment. Like, oh yeah, here's the property line.
They like did it to you on purpose.
Old George is gonna get her now.
You should have been like, "Oh, okay." And the next time you mowed your lawn, saved the lawn clippings, gone back over, and dumped them on the property line, like on the spot that you mowed. Sorry,
Well,
took your grass.
Yeah, just once in a while he'll come out and start spouting about the property line, and I was trying. The first time I was talking to him, like, "So let me understand this. You're mad because I'm mowing the grass?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, bye." I just
Over it.
because it's like I'm mowing. Like I had thought like once like his lawn had gotten kind of long, and I had contemplated like, well, maybe I'll be nice and mow his lawn. I'm sure he would have called the cops on me if I did that.
You should have done the opposite and threatened to call the cops for not mowing for his lawn not being.
Yeah.
Because I had the neighbors next to me never say a goddamn thing to me, and then one day Justin was over getting ready to mow the lawn after we had moved out, and a woman comes over and she's like, "Thank God you're doing that because I was going to call the city on them." I was like, "Bitch, come over and say, hey, sorry to bother you, but your lawn's getting really high, and I know you might not care, but that does affect the rest of us. Like, own up to it."
Yeah.
I was just gonna say you should just not cut your grass. See what happens.
I thought like in that one little space, just not cut it.
Yeah.
Let it grow. Just like, oh, that's where my
Have a little grass wall.
that's where my cat takes his shit.
Right?
I have like
Sorry, Jim.
he pissed me off so bad. I'm like, I'm gonna get a dog and I'm gonna train it just to shit along the property line.
Right? Just right on the line.
just not pick it up.
I will say property lines though they are important. Like our neighbor on the other side, not the one that Anna knows, but the older couple, they're like very particular about that property line. Like the company that comes to cut the grass knows exactly where that line is, and they don't cross it. They've never cut mine.
I think that's has partially to do with my grandparents used to live in this house, and my grandpa was very particular about his lawn. He'd probably be that neighbor that you're talking about, where it's like he wants his grass cut so many inches. It has to be so long.
That must be a generational thing because I could give a fuck. Like, as long as it's like, as long as it doesn't look gross and it's like.
He was also retired for a long time before he passed away.
See,
so
that's
he had a
wonderful.
time on his
That's
hands.
a benefit none of us will be able to because we'll be working way back. Like we won't have that luxury of generations before where we retire at like 60 and then live another 30 years. Like that's not necessarily something we're gonna have to worry about.
We'll probably work until we die.
Yeah, literally at work, and then we get that money.
There's a guy.
Natural causes, though.
Oh, darn.
Be like,
There was
Can't prove this
there
workplace.
was a guy at work. We had a meeting, but he decided to skip it, so he went to the locker room, started changing. I went in there to use the bathroom, and you could just hear him. And I'm just like, oh God, is he about to stroke out? And I was just like, without using his name, I was like, hey, dude, you okay? He's like, yeah. I was like, are you sure? Because he's been to the clinic before for his heart, and so I was just like, do I need to, call the fire station? Do I need to call 123? Like, what do you need right now? He's like, no, man, I refuse to die inside these gates.
I was like, you want me to help you towards the parking lot then, or what?
Wrong answer. Die inside the gates of a major pharmaceutical company, and your family gets paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, just be smart.
And even if nothing, you get nothing beneficial from it, you get to have that story about all that time that guy died here and we had to call the ambulance and things got shut down. Like, that's a story that's going to to live on throughout the company.
They'll put a plaque up in his name.
Yeah. Well, my uncle, he didn't die at work, but he had a heart attack at night after he got off of his shift, and he'd worked there for so long though. They named a part of the building after him.
One parking spot.
It's for him forever.
Reserved for his ghost Cadillac.
But so we didn't talk about Rachel, which we don't have to talk about Rachel specifically, but I will like to bring up the fact that, so in our dorms, there was us two and then two other roommates, and we shared a bathroom. And the other roommate, who was never there because her boyfriend lived in another building, was constantly the scapegoat for everything that was wrong in the suite. She was never there, but it always came down to her.
But common hatred of her.
Yes,
made us all so close.
Even though I think I had maybe 2 conversations with her, and they weren't bad, but for some reason it was like, oh yeah, she's the worst, because we were, catty women at the time, and it's just like, I don't know anything about it. It's like she was never there, but the reason there were bugs was because of her.
Well, I mean, there was always like that fight over who's going to take out the trash. Well, I'm not here, so the trash isn't mine.
Yeah, right?
Well, it's like, okay, well, that's kind of true, but you're also still the roommate,
Yeah.
so you should probably take out the trash when you come
I
to
would
change.
be less apt to blame my roommate who's never there than the random friends that I invite over who take the frame out of the window so they can lean out and smoke.
Or have sex on that
Or have
nasty
sex
bathroom
on the nasty
floor.
we never cleaned that bathroom floor once the whole time we were there. And yeah.
And yet we had the stuff to do it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because we were 19 and 20. I'm not cleaning a bathroom, even if it's my own dirt.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
And she also, Rachel passed out in the shower and was sitting on that floor.
Yes.
Oh,
That
so
bath.
many-
Yeah, I don't think I remember I don't remember cleaning that bathroom, but if I did, I would have cleaned maybe the sink and maybe the toilet, but I wouldn't have cleaned anything else.
I know I didn't because I didn't have large plastic gloves
Yeah.
to cover my body.
Most of the time, now I've noticed with this new place I'm living, because we moved in and it was nice and clean, I'm super apt at clean, because I clean the bathroom since we moved in probably every week, which I never used to do, and I don't think I cleaned it once the whole year we were at the dorm. So it was one of those things that you learn as you get older. But
There's kind of a difference, I think, between having a dorm bathroom and having a house that's just, yours.
yeah, that's true. You want to kind of take care of it, but I didn't mind living in dorms in college. They're obviously not. I wouldn't do it now, but that's because I know, how much room I need. But I didn't mind it at the time.
I enjoyed it. I really liked it. Liked being able to go down to the cafeteria, and
Right.
I liked that
It was-
Royal. That I was roommates with you, and you were cool with Royal always
Right.
being around. and
Yeah.
it was fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I loved living with you guys.
I always felt bad for you though, because you couldn't live there, so you had to park every time you came, and you got tickets and stuff, because it was any college, it's notorious for having the shittiest parking ever, because it's you either have to pay all this money at the beginning of the year to get the pass, and even then you can only park in so many spots, or you have to hope for a parking spot, which there never was any.
Yeah, the worst part was probably playing musical cars, where I knew okay, you start to learn the schedule of the
Right.
The ticketing.
ticketing. Yeah.
That
So
really
you would
tells you
just-
how much he was there.
So you would just you'd park down the hill. Okay, well they're coming down the hill, so it's it's 5:15.
Yeah.
You got to go up to the top of the hill. Okay,
Yeah.
well it's 7:30.
Oh, those fucking
they're
hills.
They're doing their last pass before they go home at 8:00. Well, 8:00 until 6 a.m. I'm free.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just had to
Yeah,
make
we
sure.
went uphill both ways.
That's the downside, that to the dorms that we had, because we lived in, if anyone's familiar with Western, in the valleys, is the up, because they trick you when you're going to freshman orientation, or when you originally sign up, that's the cool, because it's on the outskirts, so it's more, I don't know, they have a way of phrasing it that makes you think it's cool, better than living on main campus, and then within a week you're like, fuck, why didn't I just live on main campus? Because I would.
Well, because they weren't as strict out there in the valleys.
Yeah, that was their thing.
They were super they didn't tell you that in front of your parents.
Yeah.
But they were hey, the valleys, that's where freshmen live.
Right.
It's really cool because
And I feel like they never salted those effing hills, and you have to
No,
go up a hill
and
to
then
go to your
because we had to go
classes
down
and-
a big hill and then up a big hill, because so it was the worst, because you end up walking up the hill every time.
I remember Rachel complaining. She's like, I fell uphill. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, how did you
Right?
fall uphill?
well, because they didn't build them in the valley.
And then-
they built them
Yeah.
just outside of the valley.
And then
so-
they did that stupid shit where they closed the cafeteria during weekends and all the buildings except for one. And there was Saturdays where I just was hungry, or I ate whatever ramen as opposed to walking up another hill to go to the cafeteria. Now that's just my laziness, but it was still annoying.
Well, that was everyone's laziness. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like nobody would walk to main campus. Which
I
is,
would like make an excuse to stay there as long, like on main campus, as long as possible to avoid. Like some people, if they were athletically inclined and wanted to walk back in between all classes, but I was like, no. If I got a class at like noon that ends at 2, and I have another class at like 4, you best believe I'm hanging out on campus for 2 hours, as opposed to walking down 2 hills. Even though you could see the campus from the dorms, it wasn't that far away.
Well, I would walk back just because I wanted to take a nap.
That's true. Oh, you were the queen of naps. You could nap like you'd be like, oh, Sarah's got 20 minutes. She could nap for 15 of those. Mm-hmm. Lay her head down, go to sleep.
Not 18.
I couldn't. It would take me 25 minutes to get to sleep. But
I wish I still had that power now.
right. Mm-hmm. Just instantaneous naps. What about you, April? Did you have any roommates when you were? Because you live by yourself now, but I assume you had roommates in college, right?
Yeah. Well, my the freshman and sophomore year, I roomed with the same girl, and
did you know her before? Or did you just get random?
No, we just got randomly assigned together, and she said for like the first couple weeks she thought I hated her because my way of coping with like things that I'm not sure like new is to just go off and do it myself.
Yeah.
And so like I wouldn't say like, oh, do you want to go to dinner, or I'm going here.
Right.
And so I kind of just went off on my own, and it took our next door neighbor, who she was having roommate troubles. And we became friends with her. She basically lived in our room with us.
Yeah.
And so it took her to like bring us together, like, oh no, like I think you're really nice. I just thought you hated me. And like, well, I thought you hated me. I was just off doing my thing. I didn't realize I didn't realize that we were both kind of doing the same thing to each other.
Right.
But yeah, the one the neighbor, just her, instead of calling her room, because we had phones in our rooms at that time, she would call our room first to talk to
she was there so much.
And like on the off, like once in a while, she'd actually be in her room. And so we would just yell out in the hallway, "Megan, your mom's on the phone." So she'd come to our room to talk to her mom.
Dorm phones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
blind, going in blind.
Yeah.
That's what Sarah did, and I'm pretty sure the only reason why Sarah and her old roommate got matched up was because they had the same birthday.
Doesn't that you're just like, is that how they're doing it now? Like, I'm not expecting them to look at every single individual and like pair them with who they think, but like just being like, oh, birthdays, there we go. Yep. Something immediately, one thing in common.
Birthday, same
and you
city,
had to fill
boom.
out that whole questionnaire of like your
What's
personality.
the point of even
and,
filling it out?
And all they did was birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to fill one out because I went in with a roommate who ended up having to leave. So
Like 2 days in, right?
yeah.
Worked out for me.
But and I think it was just a wonderful happenstance, and that person I'm still friends with, so that's good, because if I'd been her roommate for a whole year, I don't know if we'd still be friends.
Could you imagine if it hadn't worked out that way? You might have never listened to Comedy Bang Bang, which then this might not exist.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I like
You're
how you
welcome,
you leave
world.
that and not like you would never have been friends kind of a thing.
Oh, we're not friends.
I would have never had to. I wouldn't have an excuse to come back here. I would just.
The zoo would just be like the weirdest place for you.
Right.
Like, yeah, I lived in Kalamazoo for like 4 years.
I would have been like a certain friend of a counselor friend of ours, where I would have just lived on campus like forever. Because we only moved off campuses because we got a house.
God damn.
So that's the only reason we moved off campus. Otherwise, I'd be that person who'd be like in college, like 7 years living in campus, and I'm like just like walking up to like other like freshmen and be like, "Hey, this they call me the king of the dorm," or like wearing like a robe, but it's like open and just like in boxers, just like
Boxers
hey.
and
Wait, why are you wearing boxers?
Oh, I'm picturing myself as our counselor friend. Sorry. If you guys ever want to hang out, play some video games, you just let me know.
You just burned that bridge.
Oh, he's not gonna listen. And
Until,
even if he does, you think he knows his time?
until one day.
I caught up on all your podcasts. Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
junior and senior year, I rented an apartment, and I had a couple roommates, but I mean, I got pretty lucky. I didn't.
Did you go through that cycle of roommates? Because did you rent from your father or did you rent from other people?
Yeah, I rented from my dad.
Yeah, because your dad owned a series of places that he rented to college students in the town.
Mm-hmm. And other people, yeah.
Yeah, and so you and Liz both rented from him and had, I know she had like 3 or 4 roommates that she would cycle through because they were like, well, like college roommates, so they would be like a little, even nice
like
ones were a little out of it.
Like he wasn't, he didn't, I wasn't forced like to have a roommate. If I just wanted to live with someone, and they were looking for a place and I knew them, I'd say, hey, you can, if you want, you can be my apartment.
Lower my rent
roommate.
payment.
Yeah.
By moving in.
But one time, I guess one of my roommates, he fell into some like scheme on eBay where he sold his iPad to someone in like Syria.
Yeah.
And they scammed him out of it, like, oh, you have to send money here and give me the money back, and do a whole bunch of crap, or the PayPal account was fake, and so
can't trust anybody on the internet.
Yeah.
Catfish.
I had fallen asleep early, but he called the police to make a report, and the cops were in my house, and I didn't even know about it. I just slept through the entire thing.
Right.
Luckily, we weren't into illegal shit, so.
Right? Well, luckily, he didn't, like, invite him in. There was, like, a pot plant in the corner.
Yeah,
You're like, dude!
I mean, you were asleep, so you wouldn't know. But what's that like, having a cop in your house for official business? But it's not like anything super serious. Like, does he sit on the couch? Does he sit at the kitchen table? Does he just stand?
I would assume they just stand.
And,
that seems
by
to be the thing.
I mean, women can also be cops. I get it.
Well, it seems like that situation you want it to be a little more casual, so they should try to sit down and be on.
Officer Barbrady, can I just call you Jim? Is that okay?
I was at home once, and I was probably in high school, I think, maybe early high school, late middle school, and so I was getting ready to leave for school, and it was like I think it would have been early. It would have been like 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock, and I got a knock on the door, and it was a police officer, and I was like, oh god. So I opened it, and he was my brother who lived at the apartment above the store in Springport. So it was. My parents owned the building, but he lived above it. He was in his early 20s, and he had a roommate who, in the middle of the night, took my brother's car without asking, drove it to meet his underage girlfriend,
Oh, boy.
and then on the way home, rolled it over. It caught fire. The roommate got out of the car and just walked home and went to bed and left the car on fire in a field.
Oh, my gosh.
So the cop found the car. It was registered to my brother, came to the address on the registration, which was our house, and so he came in, and I was like... I was like, Mom, there's a cop at the door. And my mom, of course, freaked out. And he goes, everybody's fine, but we found this John's car totaled. And she's like, well, he doesn't live here. He lives here or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'll call him and tell him you're coming. So he called. Of course, he wasn't awake. And he woke up and he's like, what happened? Like, because he was still asleep. He didn't even know. Yeah, this friend was a piece of shit.
Holy
he moved
crap.
out shortly after, left a bunch of stuff. So all the money he owed my brother just started selling his stuff
nice.
to pay himself back. Yeah.
Hey, worked out.
But yeah, it was a really quick one in that instance because he just came in, asked about him, and then left. But he stood the whole time. If that makes any difference.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's rare. Like obviously TV's TV and it's fake and everything, but I don't think I've ever seen like cops just like
I don't think they encourage them
chilling and relaxing like
to be really chummy with people. So it'd have to be like a small town thing, or if you like knew the cop as a person before.
Yeah.
As a person and not as a cop.
Well, I mean, like
them as a person.
if there was like if they came in and they were like
difference.
somebody like you went to school with, or someone like oh Timmy, and he's like it's Officer such and such now, Yeah,
well, because even at like high school sporting events, like you'd always see them like they wouldn't like relax even if they were like laughing, having a good time. They were always standing. It's like
always on their guard.
Maybe
have,
it's
like,
because
really
of that belt. Maybe that belt
Ooh,
they
the
can't
belt-
sit.
Yeah, like I didn't even think about that.
Because
But
they
like
have the holster.
belt,
Not comfortable.
the bulletproof vest, like having all of that on. It's probably just
they're all
not-
corseted, so they can't move anyway.
Yeah. Ooh,
Then, I mean,
They're all waist training, getting that hourglass figure.
Marie Antoinette.
It probably feels good to stand though too, because like I'm like that because I drive a lot at work and they drive. So if you're just in your car all the time, it feels good to just stand.
I've never been to a police academy or police training, but I can imagine they're very much like you have to be very serious, like because people will take advantage if they think you're like a nice,
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah,
a nice guy, and then so.
Definitely. You have to profile. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You see a black person, take them down. Doesn't matter what's going on.
Just
Pull
shoot,
them
shoot,
over, shoot them, plant the evidence.
Rodney King.
Just kidding. We are very respectful of the police officers in this city because they've been awesome to us. A couple times my car got stuck.
That was with Parchment, though.
You know what?
The Parchment cops, and then we don't have them anymore.
Still.
Parchment?
I'm a big fan. That's the city.
City.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's the paper city. Used to have a paper that doesn't have
You
anymore.
thought it was like a paper
actually
cop?
My car had gotten stuck at the end of the driveway, and I
Whatever,
was
doesn't
trying to go
matter.
to work, and a cop car stopped, and he helped us kind of dig out the tire.
Mine,
He didn't just pull in. He said, "You need help," and you say, "Yeah." And he says, "How much?" Like the guy with the plow. One of that horrible snowstorm, and he has that plow in his truck, and he's like, "You need help being dug out?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "How much?" "Nothing for you. Move along, jerk. I'll stand up for 12 hours before I give you a dime."
Yeah, that cop was really cool. And then
It was freezing out too.
oh yeah, and he got his socks all wet. And Michigan winners, you guys.
And then he
gotta
got
know.
pneumonia and died.
Oh, don't say that. He probably did.
I haven't seen him since.
Haven't seen him since.
Oh, he was probably shot before then. It's fine.
Oh gosh. Jeez, oh Pete's. But then when we had our child in our car on the way to the hospital, those cops were
Literally.
all really cool.
Yeah.
Yes. International audience. American healthcare is the best.
Yeah. You can save a lot of money if you just birth the baby before you get to the hospital.
You know, I will say though,
But throw modesty out the window. It's mooning so many people.
I will say everyone kept telling me how expensive an ambulance ride is. No, it's not. It's not that expensive. It was really cheap. It was like $82.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Nice. You must have got a good insurance.
Yeah, good insurance.
I mean, if you would have just chilled out, we could have driven, but, whatever.
You didn't want to ride in that car.
You're like, my baby came in
the
this world with
back.
no chill.
You didn't want to ride in that. It was a bloodbath.
Should have put tarps over the seat or garbage bags like when Danielle was driven in the hospital.
Well, we really weren't planning on
Yeah, we
having him in the car.
Wasn't part of the plan,
I thought we had time. I
right?
really did. But
I did up until,
The head poked out.
yep.
He put a hand through and waved.
I was like, I can hold that. No, I can't. Nope.
You'd be like those people who like get the stomach, who don't know they're pregnant and they get the stomach cramps and then they literally like poop out the baby.
yeah.
And they just like
literally poop out the baby
they
like a
figured it.
Snickers.
They literally figuratively. Well, they like do that thing where they're like, and then they look down and the baby's in the toilet. I'm like, how has birth ever been like?
That easy?
Yeah.
I don't know. How was it?
It was hard.
Oh,
It was
okay.
very hard.
It wasn't that easy? You didn't
No.
just poop.
Ow. Fuck.
Are you
your
sure
baby in
it's
the
not a
toilet?
myth that all women go to about how childbirth's easy, but they just lie about it so they get sympathy?
Super fake.
Women.
Hashtag fake baby news.
Fake baby news.
Fake. She lied.
Babies don't really
13.
come from women.
All 13 women lied. I make the best babies.
Just look at my daughter. She's sexy, isn't she?
Oh, God. Okay. All right. We're
Don't you
done.
think I should date her?
She's going to be wife number 4
Oh, God. Stop.
when the other one gets too old.
Ugh. That was me choking. Back to neighbors.
Any weird neighbors from when you were growing up or anybody in this neighborhood or down the street that like, do you guys have like a house or like a person on the street was like, oh, they're weird or oh, there's a rumor about
We
them being
had-
crazy or
Growing up, my parents were always really close with all the neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some neighbors across the way, and their names were kind of where you didn't know if it was a man or a woman name.
uh-huh.
Like
And-
Pat?
Yeah,
or Tracy
exactly.
or something.
Like Pat and Tracy, like that was they both had those names, and they had the haircut that was just right, so you couldn't tell either. Like everything about them, you just didn't know if they were man or woman. And so growing up, I didn't really think much of it until later on when my parents mentioned all those lesbians that lived across the street. My whole life living there, we moved probably when I was in like maybe 5th grade, but I
Yeah.
never like thought about the fact that they're both women. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I
And
think
we went over there quite a bit.
when you're a kid though, I think a lot of times just because of society, you pay attention to like trend like it's like rolling thunder upstairs. I think you subconsciously use like traditional like gender identifiers, so it's hard for you to like pick out when people are, because like I have short hair. I was at work once when I worked at the Meyer Library and I was wearing a dress, but because I had short hair, this girl who was like 3 or 4 said he and pointed to me because I think she just associated short hair with a boy
Yeah.
because she was too young. So I think that maybe like you just never thought to look past specific like gender
I never thought
identifiers.
much of
Yeah.
it. And then most of the people around us were couples with kids, except for them, and I didn't put that together either.
Right?
So it's like how much I missed out when I was a kid, not even realizing things.
But that's funny because then people go on and on about the effects that gay people, and then they're like children are going to be influenced. But I'm like, yeah, like kids pay attention to who's gay. You know what I mean? Like they're not focused on it.
Hey.
And they
Saw
were
those
so
dudes sucking
sweet.
dicks over there.
They always
As long
bought
as
all
they
the
don't
Girl
suck
Scout
mine.
cookies.
Yeah, right. I don't care who they are. They buy my Girl Scout cookies or that overpriced wrapping paper they make you sell at Christmas.
Yeah.
I think too, the thing that helped for you not to realize that your parents didn't really draw attention to it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm pretty
And,
sure I did ask them one time, which one's the man?
Yeah,
And I'm sure they kind of
your-
brushed it under the rug and didn't answer.
Yeah,
me.
your parents
Yeah.
still to this day are like very good at like skirting around like controversial things. Like, oh well, look at this tree over here. This is a pretty nice tree. What do you think of this tree?
Which one's the big spoon and which one's the little spoon?
Spoons? Who's hungry? Like, yeah.
Let's get ice cream. Come on.
They're really good at that. So it's, my neighborhood didn't really have any weirdos. Like growing up.
But did your parents know like your neighbors and stuff? Was that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We had
Maybe
we
it's
had
a
like
community thing because
we had a cop that lived kitty corner from us. Actually, he was the chief of the police.
it's always
So,
good
like,
to know if you got cop neighbors.
So that was really good. We had like 4 kids close to my age in the neighborhood, like on the street.
Yeah.
So we were all like always outside playing or going to somebody's house. It was pretty good. And then
You played outside. Are you sure about this story? It's
In
starting to
between
sound
watching
fictional.
cartoons and stuff.
I mean, yeah, when I used to be skinny, I played outside. And that was up until 2nd grade. 3rd grade, I went inside and
Never came back out again.
No. I think, you know what? 3rd grade's when I got that computer in my room.
See?
There you go.
Oh boy. It's also when my right arm got really buff. But then we moved to a different neighborhood, and it was like quieter, slightly older crowd. So it ended up like, I don't know, we didn't know as many neighbors, but we knew enough of them. And then from there, we moved in together, and well, by we I mean Sarah and I. And then we didn't know any. Well, no, I take that back. We knew one neighbor. After Anna moved
In
out
Spanish?
of the house next door, we knew the neighbors across the street.
But you knew them before. Oh, no. It was we met them when we moved in.
Yeah.
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 But then the other house next to us was empty, and it was just that old guy that kept checking on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he would sweep the driveway.
Yeah.
Then he actually, before we sold our house, our old house, he sold that house. This
Yeah.
dude had like 5 boxes of old school Playboys in there, like mint condition.
They have like an estate sale or something, or did you
Yeah.
sneak in?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
had an estate sale, and Sarah's dad was like, yeah, he had like boxes, a whole bunch of boxes of Playboys. I was like, you didn't tell me, like those bad boys be worth so much money right now.
Yeah.
Be
Oh,
sitting on
especially
those?
now that Hugh's dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 And what's crazy is my mom threw out all my brothers. My brother had a big stack of them. And my mom found them and just got angry and just threw them all out.
I like how that's like a thing. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be monitoring maybe what type of things your children are looking at, because then if you find something that's like, okay, that's questionable, that could be,
Disturbing.
yeah. But like kids, particularly teen boys, like they're going to look at it. So like, I don't understand the idea of like getting super angry that they have regular hormonal needs.
Well, that's actually something Sarah and I talked about, because we always talk about how easy it is for us to watch something that's got gun violence.
Yeah.
We're shooting people all day in movies.
Yeah.
The moment a titty pops out,
Then it's a big deal.
it's a big
Or
deal.
heaven forbid a swear word gets in there and you're
And it's like, but
how's that?
But nudity, like, aren't we all naked when we take a bath or a shower?
We're all naked Saturdays between 2 and 4. That was a story from off air. It's not gonna make any sense.
Oh, and
But-
people are so modest sometimes in the hospital about their nudity, but then they're so public about everything else in their life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
what in the world? I see so
And
many
I was
butts
addicted to
and
crack,
boobs.
and
I
you're
really
like,
don't
okay.
care. Yours is not anything special.
yeah.
I'll talk about crack, but I won't show you my crack. You know what I mean?
And that's just it to me, though. It's like, it's so weird that we're like so quick to, hey, double barrel shotgun, I'm ready to go.
Right.
But hey,
superhero movies,
put
just because they
that
don't
titty
show
away.
just because they don't show blood is somehow not graphic. Like, did you see the Logan movie?
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, and how it seemed super graphic, but that's just because it was Wolverine. When he slashed somebody, they actually bled. So it was the same violence it was in any other X-Men movie. It just happened to have blood.
It's just now blood.
Yeah, so it's
spewing
and
out.
then like
more realistic blood and bleeding.
But anyway, we got off topic from neighbors.
Whatever.
Well, April, you lived in the country. I mean, we both lived in the country, but you lived definitely more in the country because your neighbors were like a couple hillbillies.
Yeah.
And they were 15 miles away.
Yeah.
Well, they had all that land in the woods around your house.
Oh boy.
So.
What was that like at
But
night?
no.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, just the hillbillies that lived down the road would just peel their tires in front of our driveway to try and get Dad to race them with his
Country
71
folk.
Camaro.
Country folk.
Yeah. So
Let's race. What is this, 1957? We're going to race for pink slips now?
Do they
Get
bring
out of
golf
here,
carts
greaser.
I like how they would just pull in front of your house and just
yeah, because like
burn rubber.
yeah, they'd sit down there and just like drive away, and we just like shake our heads at them.
Do you think, like, you refer to them as the hillbillies down the street? Do you think they're ever like, let's go see those uppity motherfuckers?
They think they so good. Yeah.
Those rich some
Well,
bitches.
they had
Rich some bitches in their high top hill house.
across the street and over a little bit, there was a piece of land somebody owned that had like an insulated barn that they had built that they just used for partying.
Yeah.
Like they just used it to go and have parties at. It was a barn. They was separate entire. I don't know where these people lived, but they didn't live near the barn, and they would just use the barn to party because that is country.
Oh my gosh! One time they were having it usually wasn't that bad. Where like it was far enough away where you
Looking at each other like, is this real?
yeah no it
We
was
drove our
really-
tractor to school and we had party barns. What?
They'd party out there one night. I was like 10 or 11 or something like that, and
It's the first time you got drunk.
no my
Oh, no,
my
babies.
dad
Oh yeah.
Well, whiskey on the tooth, you know.
my dad and like 2 or 3 of his friends and their wives were over at the house, and my mom and the wives decided to leave for some reason and left me in charge of all the drunk adults.
S10.
And at 10, yeah. And so they were looking at each other and they're like, hey, I bet we could sneak over to that party and just see how close we could get. So we start army crawling through our massive yard over to the party to see how close
I love
they
how
could
like
get.
drunk adult 10-year-old like are both on the same level as far as shenanigans go.
Yeah. Well, like, I tried to stop
You're like,
them,
yeah,
and
that
I'm
sounds
like,
fun.
This is gonna
Can't
happen.
beat them,
whatever.
join them.
Pretty much. I'm like, well, I can't stop you, so I kind of have to go with you.
And then I'm gonna get mad at me for letting them
Yeah.
go.
One thing that's kind of interesting in our neighborhood,
Yeah.
golf carts have become a big thing where they're like driving golf carts
I
around.
don't get
didn't
it.
know, like there's not, it started off with one. And then now we've seen like 3 separate people that have
Yeah, there's like
It's
there's
not like you
Fun.
guys live on a compound or something where they can get anywhere on the golf carts other
Yeah,
than
it's a
around
small
the
neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not like
well,
you
I
can.
mean, it's not that small. If you think about it, it's connected to the old neighborhood that I used to live in as a kid.
But like golf carts, like they can't drive it on certain roads, so it's like they can't like get to the store in a golf cart. Like, what's the point?
Well,
Not legally.
our neighbor across the street,
Yeah.
he drove his golf cart all the way to, what did he say, Richland?
Why?
like just shy,
Is
just
the
shy,
No
gas?
one
Did
stopped
you get
him.
like 100 miles per gallon or something in a
just
golf
shy
cart?
of like just shy of Gull Lake.
He's like, I just wanted to get.
Jeez.
Sometimes you just want to
Wow.
get out on the road and drive in
Yeah, he was
30
like-
miles an hour in your golf cart.
He told me he's like,
Feel the
thing,
mild wind against your neck.
he's like, this thing made it all the way to Gull Lake and then back. He's like, my aunt lives on Gull Lake, so me and the wife and the kids, we just drove out there on the golf cart. The fuck?
Was it because he lost his license legally and couldn't take the car? It's like when you see adult men driving kids' bicycles with 6 packs of beer in their hand. Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
someone got their license taken away. Is it a kid? I can't tell. Oh, no, they're chain smoking.
I don't know
It
if I've
must be.
seen him
Is
driving
it a
in
kid?
a regular vehicle lately, now that we're talking about
come
it.
on.
I've seen the 4-wheeler.
Stop
and
it, stop it.
Is he the kind of person maybe he just has like every type, but like has a motorbike, has a bicycle, 4-wheeler, ATV, like just.
Yeah, but I will say he does have the nicest golf cart in the neighborhood. Like everyone else
Shines
has
it up. He's out there cleaning it.
Everyone else has electric,
Ah.
and he's rocking gas with rims
Solar
that's
power.
lifted. Like
Maybe
it's,
that's the difference. Where if it's gas, you can drive it on the road.
maybe.
Maybe because it's.
I don't know. I didn't ask.
So like India out there, where as long as it has wheels, it can go on the road.
That ox, not gonna work.
Yeah.
That
Get
golf
wheels on
cart.
that thing and
Yeah.
come talk to us.
Yeah, this neighborhood's really good compared to our old one. Our old one, like we said, we only knew the people across the street,
Yeah.
and then with this one,
Well, we met the people that moved into the house where the guy was just sweeping the driveway.
Before
And
you
they
left.
seemed really
Yeah,
nice.
but-
And they were even going to let us use their pool, too.
I know they had that
Nice.
pool next door, and there was nobody in that house, and I was always mad because they had that nice pool with a water slide. No one was ever using it,
yeah,
we,
and
we had an opportunity, but
it
we
functioned too. Like
Yeah.
it was like,
right?
when they sold the house.
Didn't you tell
it
me-
didn't need any work?
And they even told the older guy that he could always come by and just hang out and like
Aw.
sit by the pool and have a drink because
Was he-
that was his thing.
Yeah, was he? Did he sell it because was it just him? Like, did his
Yeah,
wife was
he
his
had
knife not around?
apparently he had bought the house for him and his wife had passed away.
Yeah,
So he kind of just kept it for a while as like sentiment type thing.
yeah.
And so he enjoyed, I guess, just having a beer by the pool every once in a while.
Aw.
Yeah. But
Wasn't-
that was really sweet that they did that.
Wasn't it you that told me that you thought that the house down the street was like a Breaking Bad house? Like, because you're like, no one, people
Oh,
visit random
yeah.
hours, and you're like, I'm sure they're
It was
selling
across
drugs.
from Mary's aunt, and she was concerned as well
Yeah, because
because she mentioned it when we had a get together. She's like, "Yeah, there's always random people going in there, staying for a couple minutes and leaving.
Yeah, they're
and
doing
it's always
something.
like sketchy individuals that are coming by at all times of the hour. And,
Yeah.
maybe they were like grew produce in their yard and they were just selling it. Like, I don't know, just
Yeah,
like assume
basil.
it's drugs, but
But when before the guy got the house, they had an estate sale there,
Uh-huh.
and me and my mom went just to go see what they had.
Yeah.
My mom almost bought a mattress set, but then he like jacked the price up out of like nowhere, and it was the guy that we saw with all these younger kids.
yeah.
And he was just really sketchy about it. He's like, "Well, I'm actually a millionaire. I don't really need this money. I'm just trying to clean out the house, you know."
Right.
I bet he jacked the price because he remembered he hid like cash or drugs in the mattress. And he's like, oh shit, I can't let her buy it now.
I know. That's what I'm wondering.
And
I'm
she's
like,
gonna get it home and she's like, there's a hole in the mattress, and then she's gonna like tear it and all this cocaine is in it.
it's something very weird when you see like an older white guy in like his mid to late 50s.
wearing a fur jacket.
Yeah, wearing a fur jacket, hanging out with a bunch of like 20-something year
Yeah,
old
he
black
definitely
kids.
was.
Yeah.
Like I'm
dealing.
not saying old white men can't hang out with young black kids, but that's
It's-
just weird.
Yeah,
That's,
sorry, it is weird.
And
Yeah.
it
That's
looks
just the
like
facts.
the way the kids were dressed, like they were up to no good too. Just like
Ooh, profiling.
Profiling.
no,
Racist?
I mean like
So far we're like Blue Lives Matter. Let's profile. When we rented an RV for a trip, and we went to go pick it up at the guy's house. He was a very nice guy, but he was a retired police officer, and he had a giant bumper sticker that said Blue Lives Matter on his car. And we go to pull in, and my friend Sheridan goes, "Oh God!" And we're like, "Sheridan, just don't talk to him." She's the kind of person that she would bring it up, even though we were renting his RV. I'm like, I don't care if he's a racist. It's just for the weekend. Shut your mouth. Like, just we
Wait,
can
how's
badmouth
that-
him out the.
How does that make him racist?
Well, it doesn't necessarily make him racist, but we just that idea that like if you start talking to him and maybe he did point out that Savannah, who was going to drive it, was the first little lady who was ever going to drive this RV, and she just kind of grinned her teeth, and I was like, just let it go, just let to him. I'm sure it's not offensive. It's not like he's doing it maliciously, and if he is, he was really casual about making it seem like he wasn't. So
That's the trick.
yeah.
He found the trick.
Well, you know those people, and they keep moving, and you're like, oh, should I say something? Because they just use the term "those people," or should I just? Well, I thought they were very attractive for those types of people. You're like, oh God,
midgets.
midgets.
It's
I
really
think the
hot.
term is little people.
Little people,
Sexy
big
ass
worlds.
midget.
So I was thinking about this earlier, and I wanted to bring up. So, growing up where we lived, because I had a little bit of an unconventional childhood because my parents owned a store that was literally in the front of our house. So there was the store, and then you went back, and there was our kitchen, and then you went upstairs and was our house. So they had people in and out all day. Like I'd come down in my PJs to get something to eat, and there'd be like people around, but I didn't care. It was like a norm for us. And so we knew everybody because they would all literally come to our store. So that's the reason my parents knew everybody in the neighborhood. But we had neighbors, and they still continue to have neighbors that kind of fluctuate because the house on the left is owned by my aunt, and she just actually sold it for the first time, but she used to rent it. So we would get new people every once in a while. And she was a big churchgoer, so she would rent it to people who came through the church who were having a tough time, i.e., didn't have money. So they would end up leaving in the middle of the night and leaving all the shit there because they owed her a bunch of cash. Oh. Like multiple people that did this. And then the house across the street had different people in and out of it, including your cousins when we were kids.
The house across the street?
Yeah. Chris and whatever his wife's name was. And
They lived over there?
yeah, directly across the street where George and Dan lived. They lived in that house when we were kids.
Oh.
But anyway, and then the house on the other side. Anyway, so
Don't
the
remember
house
that.
on the one side, a woman and her husband moved in, and I was probably in middle school. And they moved in, and my mom like was talking to her one day, and one day she came home and she's like, "You'll never guess what story the neighbor just told me." So the woman who moved in next door was probably in her 40s maybe when she moved in with her husband, had grown kids off. Her sister worked and lived in the Adrian area with her husband, right? Her sister and her brother-in-law. He had recently had brain surgery because he developed a tumor on his brain. So he had brain surgery. And I guess it was cutting a big strain on the relationship because before he had the surgery, he was acting out and they were getting in fights and he was getting really aggressive from this brain tumor that was on his brain. Cut to 2 or 3 weeks after he has the surgery, and she stops hearing from her sister. Like, her sister's not returning her phone calls. She's not, like, talking to her. She tries to go over the house. He keeps making excuses why she's gone doing stuff. Come to find out, he murdered her and cut her up and cooked her in the kitchen of the restaurant in Adrian that they owned.
Oh, my God.
And his claim, they found, they chalked it up to the brain tumor. However, a lot of people came out of the woodwork and were like, yeah, I think he, they came out of the woodwork saying they had heard him say throughout his life, from when he was a kid, how he was, like, kind of obsessed with the idea of murder. And, like, they thought, but he went to jail, but it was on, like, a insanity plea. So, but she, like, that was the neighbor. And that was, like, the first day she moved in, she came to the store next door, and that, like, she just told my mom the story, like, out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay. Like, that's the kind of thing we're working with. She was a very nice lady, and she had terrible, for lack of a better term, she had terrible luck, because then 3 or 4 years later, her and her husband were down south visiting their family. They got in a car accident and he died. So then she was by herself, and then she smoked like a chimney, had to go to hospice by the time she was like 50. So it was just like one thing after another with her.
Oh.
And it was just, yeah. She was a nice enough neighbor, though.
Crazy.
She never took care of her place, but I mean, I didn't.
Just makes me think of South Park, though.
She kind of did look like, who's the bus driver from the first couple seasons?
The one with, like, the bird.
Hamtree or
Yeah, she kind of looked a little like her.
Yeah, why was I going to say Crabtree?
Oh, that's what it is.
Miss
Crabtree, I
Crabtree,
think.
yeah.
Something tree, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
All right, since we're closing on the time, I have two... I found some bad neighbor stories.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I'll... for this first one, how far do you think this woman went? All right, so someone had a neighbor that, to get out of taking care of the property that she was renting, she didn't want to take out the trash, mow the lawn, do anything. She faked having cancer.
Oh.
How far do you think she went with that?
Chemo.
Just saying that she had chemo? Or that she was...
No, I
chemo?
think I don't think she could trick a doctor. I think she probably, like, shaved her head and was like, I had chemo, and, like, she probably even had a fundraiser for herself to, like, raise money to take care of the chemo.
Oh,
I feel like
bitch.
People do that shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit farther than she went.
She died.
But
She killed
no,
herself,
so
said it was cancer.
She actually gave herself cancer.
So the neighbor faked having cancer. She shaved her head. She faked having a limp, and she would constantly act like she was weak, as if she was having chemo treatments.
Wow.
And this went on for like years.
To avoid taking care of her property?
To avoid, like, mowing the lawn, taking out the trash.
I mean, I
yeah.
hate that shit too, but there's a line, people.
But she eventually admitted to it.
Yeah, hire somebody.
Right?
Like,
How do you even come up to, like, fessing up to that? So, for the past couple of years.
When you've had chemo for 20 years.
Yeah. And I like, shouldn't you be getting better or worse? Like, but you're just gonna stay.
How are you not dead? All right, so this next one, I guess I'm gonna say, how would you stop this neighbor, if that makes sense? Like, how would you
Murder.
try to stop, besides murder?
Chop them up in this family kitchen.
So this is from Reddit. The neighbor was constantly suspicious of the apartment building's other tenants, mainly the writer of the story. The neighbor would stage loud phone calls with the FBI headquarters about the alarming behavior of the neighbors, just because like they came home late at night or they were a little loud, stuff like that. So the neighbor went so far as to post a fake U.S. document on the building saying, like, notice this building is under surveillance. If you have any tips, call this number and stuff like that. So I guess how do you think the writer stopped the neighbor from doing this?
Called the police on him, the FBI, and said, hey, they're forging government documents.
Yeah, that's
Admitted them to the psych ward. I mean, I don't know.
Burned their apartment down. Murdered him. They just straight up killed him
the
in the
only
middle of
thing
the
I
night.
can think of is like writing their own fake document and sliding it to that person.
Oh, yeah, like a cease and desist or something that's like, yeah.
You're kind of close with the writer who was being harassed by this neighbor. Staged their own fake phone call with the FBI headquarters, and they talked loudly about the illegal actions of the neighbor, that the neighbor was impersonating the FBI, and then the harassment stopped.
I just picture like a sick kind of scenario where the person's walking outside their apartment and they just hear it and they like lean into the wall and it's like, what? So you're saying this person's breaking the law? Like they're just yelling out the other side of the conversation
Yeah.
so he knows what's going on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that reminds me. So there was a story online a couple weeks ago that the headline was elderly woman accused of training her 65 cats to steal from her neighbors. So it says that in the story, it claimed that she stole $650,000 worth of stuff from 5,000 different houses. But then, of course, it turned out to be a fake news story. It says the story exploded on social media and has over 500,000 engagements on Facebook, according to this thing. But the picture that they attached, which is a mugshot of an elderly woman, supposedly the woman with the 65 cats, is actually a mugshot of a woman from Florida, of all places, who she was taken because she shot her neighbor, who was 40 years younger than her, with a semi-automatic pistol after he declined to kiss her. So it was an actual woman who like went to jail because she shot her neighbor because he wouldn't get down with her.
Oh my god.
So I don't know if that's better or worse than the 65 cat story.
Holy cow.
I don't think cats. I mean, I could picture training some animals, but I can't imagine training cats to steal for you.
Cat
They
would
cannot
not
be
do that.
bothered.
I
Cats
saw
are
one story where
assholes.
someone's cat would steal things from around the neighborhood, but like gloves or things like a cat could carry, but they didn't train it.
Yeah.
And they would just put the stuff out like, oh, if you're missing something, come to our house.
Pete did it again.
We might
Right?
have it over here.
There was also a story that I was said isn't true because it was from Pontiac, Michigan. So this guy had his house was being set to be demolished, and he didn't want it demolished, so he swapped the house numbers with his neighbor. And when the team came the next day, they just demolished the neighbor's house.
Oh man.
That's awful.
Oh god. Oh, that is
Yeah, which the house next door was for rent, so there wasn't anybody living in it. But obviously, the person who owned it, who was renting it, was very upset. So
Guy's
At
a
least
little
there was
dick.
no one's things in there. Hopefully.
I wonder how that got resolved. Like, did the demolition company have to probably, I would think, pay for the house or pay for damages? 'Cause
I don't know. I'd say it'd probably be all up to the dude to swap the numbers. Though the demolition crew probably should have like thought about it more than just being like, "That's the house number. Let's do it."
double checked it a little bit.
Come on, guys. It's Pontiac. They
That's
improved Pontiac by
That's
knocking
true.
down
They don't
any
really.
house. It's like, oh, wrong house. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Still looks better.
But, okay. Well, are we good for time or okay? Because I did have a.
Oh, if you have something else, we can go a little bit
Well,
longer.
I had a are you a good neighbor quiz.
Oh,
Oh, Well, in that case, we are done for time. Now, this is neighbor spelled
See,
with
there
a
you
U
go,
because
projecting.
Because it's
a
foreign.
UK website. It's called problemneighbors.co.uk.
Jeez, oh Pete's. Why don't you just
Base.
go back to England?
Okay, so question number 1. So you haven't seen your elderly neighbor for a few days. What do you do? Do you A, knock on the door and see if they're okay? After all, you'd feel terrible if something had happened to them and you didn't do anything. Would you B, assume that they were with relatives or gone and assume they're okay? Or C, not even notice? They're an old bat anyway and always complain about everything.
I'd like to say A, but I have a feeling I wouldn't notice.
So A or C?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I noticed, I'd check on them.
Right. If you were like close enough
like
to
we're
notice.
so busy that we're always in and out, and I don't
Yeah.
notice when my neighbors are home or not.
Right.
Really.
I would check on them.
Okay.
I don't know if,
If
you'd
it's
notice
my
either.
neighbor?
We're in and out a lot.
How many days was T and K's Pontiac G6 out of their driveway and it was replaced with a silver Chevy Cruze?
I don't know.
This is 2 weeks ago and it was 3 days.
All right.
Well, that's a car, not a person. You'd be more apt to know the car than the person.
But if the car's not there or if I don't hear him in the morning because he goes every day to go get breakfast with friends, like meet up with the old buddies,
Yeah.
because he's usually home about 10 minutes after me. So if I come home and his car's there, no, I'm just very observant of our elderly
It's
neighbors.
a good sign. I think it's
Yeah.
just Sarah and I are both like, wow, we really probably should be more observant. Because when you think about it, especially when, like, let's say, like, a crime happened and, like, the police came and they're like, oh, we need to know the whereabouts of your neighbor. Did you notice?
Yeah.
Being like, I don't notice anything versus, like, oh, I saw him, like, 10 after 2.
No, this is the one that I always bring up.
Yeah.
Something happens to our kids and they disappear. Who was around? What was around?
Right,
You
that's
have
true.
to know these things.
Yeah.
Like
Good thing
that's-
you're married to him and he'll notice all of them.
Well, when I take the kids grocery shopping, I have them both in the cart. That way, no one can grab them. Because Izzy's too cute.
You don't make them hold the cart and be like, don't look over the cart.
No, she wouldn't hold on to the cart. She'd get distracted by something.
Shiny.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2. You've heard some really juicy gossip about the family across the way. What are you going to do with this information? Keep it to yourself? Tell a couple of people just to get it out of your system, or tell everyone on the close, of course? I think it's a typo. Tell everybody.
I mean, we'd talk about it amongst each other, but
Yeah.
we're
keep
not
it to
we're not
ourselves.
we're not fans of
Yeah.
spreading.
Spreading gossip.
Yeah, and if we do, it's usually to people that like are gonna find out anyways.
Right.
It's like,
You tell me who doesn't live in the neighborhood, so it doesn't matter anyway.
well, yeah, we'd tell you, but then like if we're like, oh, okay, the neighbors to the left, they're gonna find out anyways because they're close to the
Yeah.
people. It's like, hey, don't know what's going on, but you should just go, just check on them, see how
Right.
they're doing,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Or if it like is something that you think might affect them, like, oh, heads up, I heard that this person has a tendency to steal people's mail or something.
right,
Like,
Yeah.
keep an eye out
it would depend on
what the information.
What it
severity,
was, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, April?
I would probably like tell a friend or like Liz or you or whoever, but it's
Yeah.
not like I'm gonna go down the street knocking on everyone's door saying, "Hey, did you hear about the Johnsons over across the street?"
You about those big Johnsons across the street?
7 Little Johnsons. That is a reality show about a family of little people. I'm not even joking.
Oh, stop.
Number 3, you're going on a holiday for 2 weeks and you've got a house. 2 weeks, nice. You've got a house security system set up just in case. What happens if the alarm goes off? A, you've given a spare key to your neighbor or friend so that they can come in and sort it out if necessary. B, it won't go off. It has never done, or has never done it. Or C, the police will come, won't they? Question mark.
We're pretty comfortable with our neighbors.
I feel like
having
we'd give them a key. Yeah.
So,
checking
like,
on
if you got
things.
notified the alarm went off, you just send them a message and be like, "Hey, can you check the house?"
Well, I'd say, hey, the police are coming,
Oh yeah,
and you should, just be available
yeah. Okay, so
once they get there. Like, just be on the lookout.
right,
The lights are gonna be on.
yeah. If you hear a siren, it's because they are
Yeah.
coming next door. Yeah,
So, because definitely, if the security system goes off and I'm getting a phone call, I don't want my neighbor walking in there if somebody did actually
that's
break
true.
in.
Then
Yeah.
you feel bad.
Like, I like my neighbor enough to just be like, hey, something's going on at my house. Just stay inside your house, keep everything locked. But just wait for the police to arrive.
Can you peek over, see if you see anything, or
Yeah.
and then just handle it with the police once they're there.
Right. Yeah, you don't be like, I think there's a burglar in my house, so you go check it out for me, thanks.
God, I really do. Wow.
And then your neighbors get shot, and you're like, oh, my bad.
We are getting old. I like my neighbors.
I know we are old.
I think it's beneficial to know your neighbors because then if there's something happens, you're much more likely to be able to like work it out than like have them, do something or call somebody and just be like, if you had just come over and said something, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And also nice to have someone watch your back. So if you know your neighbors and you know their family, and then one day you see somebody scoping out their house that clearly isn't in their family, you can be like, hey, do you know this person? Because they were looking at all your stuff and checking your windows.
Yeah.
And it's nice to.
In fact, our neighbors, their two sons just came over yesterday and hung out because they were locked out of their house.
Oh yeah.
And so they've got no problem. And they're really good with our kids.
Yeah.
They play with them, even though they're like significantly older. Like
Yeah.
one's in like middle school, the other one just entered high school, and they didn't hesitate to get on the floor and play with the cars.
Yeah.
With our 3-year-old.
I just picture them like Rod and Todd from Simpsons.
Oh no.
Amen.
No.
You can tell us a
not like
story,
that.
but not a scary one.
No, they're super. They're really cool kids.
Yeah.
Like, just good people. So it's pleasant having nice neighbors like that.
Yeah.
Everyone in this neighborhood so far. We haven't met the younger couple that just moved in like this past summer.
But they're never really home either.
Yeah, and when they are, they're usually indoors.
Mm-hmm.
They're not outside often.
Yeah.
But I mean, they used to walk their dogs in the summertime, but that was like the only time you'd see them outside.
Right.
You got any more?
No, apparently it only takes 3 questions to find out whether you're a good neighbor or not.
Oh.
It doesn't have a thing like there's an unmarked
Do you mow
package
your
on
lawn?
right.
Yeah.
how much
You
of their lawn do you mow?
You got your neighbor's mail. What do you do with it?
Throw it away, take it back, open it.
Throw it on the porch and take a shit on it.
You drop it off in a bag with your Snickers bar flaming on their front lawn.
Snickers.
Oh.
Feels like a credit card, so you open it. Oh, I just opened it because I thought it was mine.
I will say, so the
sorry.
place I'm renting, the people who were in it before, I don't know if they just never changed their address over or put a forwarding, but we keep getting their mail still. And like if it's like a magazine or a come on, it's not a big deal. It's like
What magazine would come on it?
a magazine or a come on, like a like a credit card application or something. Hey,
Sure.
I don't open the magazine, so who knows?
Well, you can. There's come on it.
But they did get a an envelope from the court that looked like jury duty, and they got one that felt like, you know how when you get a debit card they send it to an unmarked envelope, so people don't open it, which is a clear sign it's a debit card. And so I texted my landlord and I was like, okay, I know this technically isn't your problem because they're not your tenants anymore, but if you can contact them and let them know, because I'd hate for the one of them to get like jury duty and not know about it. And then get in trouble for it. She's like, okay. So then she picked up their mail or whatever to take it to them. And I'm just like, which I was like, I technically didn't have to do that. I could have just checked it or put return to sender and put it. And then 2 weeks later when the court got that it wasn't like, so
Yeah. What?
I think that's a good neighbor thing to do.
The landlord picked it up and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just go drop it off." This bitch knows where they live.
Well, the funny thing is, so she's still the people that were living there before, like they only had to move out because the husband was called back into service.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they had to move. And so right that first week we moved in, he was expecting his paperwork from the service, but it was coming to that address. So he was like, before he came in on the day we moved in and was like, hey, introduced himself. He was a real nice guy. He said, I have to get this paperwork. I'm tracking it. So when it comes in, I'm going to come over and pick it up if that's cool. Great. But that was like maybe a week. And then he came one day and we'd forgotten I had the interaction, but my sister hadn't, and I had just told her the message. So she wakes up to a guy wearing a full head to toe service like uniform, like with the tie and everything and buttons, walking up to the door, and she's like, my initial thought was, oh my god, did someone I know in the service die? Do I know anybody in the service? Like it looked like that walk up they used to give people when someone would die or be killed in action. And she's like, oh my god, what, should I freak out about this? No, I don't know anybody who's active duty. And it was just to collect the envelope or whatever, but he was like full dress.
Yeah. Well, that's That's cool. I thought you
Full
were going to
drag.
be
Full drag, exactly. Almost one whole episode.
like full circle.
So,
He was full drag.
I
His
thought-
face was beat.
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say something like, yeah, you know, they were just like regular people and the landlord really liked them, so they hang out now. And it's like, what the fuck?
They
I became
could,
friends with my tenants.
right?
Is that something you can do?
I don't think you. I mean, you could maybe be friends with your tenants after the fact, but I don't think you should ever rent to people that are your friends. And I say that having
Yeah.
rented from my friends.
Yeah.
That never turns out well.
No.
Because if you become friends with them and then because my dad rented to people and he became friends with one of the families, and like they were really buddy nice people, but like as they got more and more friendly, they started like demanding that he lower the rent or he do this for them or do that for them.
Yeah, it
And
gets.
when they stopped paying rent, he had to evict them, and they destroyed the house. So
Yeah. A wise man that rents out now told me you don't rent to family.
Yeah.
or friends.
yeah.
Yeah, or friends.
Yeah, it's kind of like being roommates. It's like you don't necessarily. It's great if you can get along, but it's like you should never assume you're going to just because you're good friends.
Yeah, yeah. Don't test it if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. Well, that's the episode, I guess.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us.
It
No,
was
thank
fun.
you.
You will be back for next week's episode.
Behind the paywall. That's right. Start paying people.
Are you kidding? If we can make money off this, you think we wouldn't be doing that right now?
I'll give you guys a quarter. Damn. Okay.
Go
Bye.
have
Okay, bye-bye.
Take a quarter and go pay someone who cares.
Careful.
That's what happens. You try to feel up your wife and she's not ready for it.
Alright.
She's got to go plump.
All right. So until next time,
Tonka bitches.
Donka bitches.
Damn.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Romantic, isn't it? Shut up and sit down.